Hey friends, today we continue our discussion of the 7 deadly sins, and we're going to be talking about the sin of sloth. Now, sloth is commonly associated with laziness and a lack of energy. The mammal from Central and South America that goes by that name is given that name because of its lack of energy and its slow movements. But sloth is more than that. We often think of a sloth as someone who's vegged out on the couch with not able to apply themselves in any meaningful way. But again, sloth is more than that, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. There are 4 types of activities that we engage in this life. There are things that are important and urgent. There are also things that are not necessarily urgent but important. Then there are things that are urgent but not important. And last but not least, there are things that are neither urgent nor important. An example of something that is urgent and important, for example, would be if you have a child and that child injured themselves. It'd be urgent and important that you attend to their injury and potentially take them to the ER. Now, when it comes to things that are important and urgent, we usually don't have difficulty applying ourselves to these things. Where it becomes more difficult is the things that are not necessarily urgent but important. So hopefully your child is not often injured, but it is important. It may not be urgent, but it is important that you spend quality and quantity time with them. But say you are busy at work and you think to yourself, well, I can spend time with my kid tomorrow. But the next day comes and again, you are busy and you seemingly don't have time, so you put it off for yet another day. That's the problem when it comes to things that are not urgent but important. We put off until we reach a point of crisis, and eventually it's something that we can no longer put off. What was once urgent, or what was once important but not necessarily urgent, now becomes important and urgent. We live in the tyranny of urgent, and the problem with living in the realm of the urgent is not everything that is urgent is necessarily important. We get text messages and emails and voicemails that scream and vie for our attention. There is the housework to be done, the house to be cleaned, the lawn to be mowed. Life will always be filled with urgent matters. And when we are always rushing to the urgent, we may never get to what is truly important, and we miss out on the things that in some ways are the most fulfilling things in life. The deadly sin of sloth is not so much about a lack of energy, it's more about our priorities. Sloth is failing to pour our energy into the things that really matter. The sin of sloth may take the form of workaholism and being a busybody, but the problem is we are busy with all the wrong things. And it leaves us with stress. It leaves us with anxiety. That's what sloth does. And the inevitable conclusion is a story in a life that is filled with regret. What I did not talk about is the matters in life which are neither important nor are they urgent. This involves things like watching TV, playing video games, shopping, watching sports, and entertainment. Now, we need our downtime, and don't get me wrong here, it's not wrong to participate in these things. The problem is when these things become our unyielding passion. The problem is when we pour ourselves into our hobbies like nothing else. Think of many people's passion for their favorite sports teams. Imagine what could happen, the amazing things that could happen if so many people poured their passion into God and their families in the same way they poured their passion into their sports teams. Now, the virtue of obedience stands in opposition to sloth. The virtue of obedience is about living with priority and purpose. Do you live on purpose? Do you live it with God's purpose in mind and in line with that purpose? Sloth is about living aimlessly. It's about failing to engage what is truly important in life. Without any mission in life, we will forever be a victim of urgent matters that are not all that important. When we look at the Savior Jesus, he lived his life on mission, and he had a big mission. It was to save the world from sin. And there were many ways in which he could have been distracted from that mission, but his sole focus was the will of the Father. Take, for example, Luke 9, verse 51, where it says, "The days drew near for him to be taken up, and he set his face resolutely on Jerusalem." The cross was his mission, and nothing was going to keep him from that. Jesus overcame the tyranny of the urgent, and his purpose what was important. And his purpose was for you and me. And for those times that we've messed up our priorities, he got it right for us. We are his number one priority, and every decision he made was with us in mind. Because he lived out his mission so fully, our lives are never beyond the point of redemption and making a new start and making our new priorities to be God's priorities. Hey, that's all I've got for today. We will see you next week.